Hi, this is MTV214. Thanks for coming by the channel. Thanks to subscribers new and old. This will be a book review. I got this book. It was the beginning of January, the end of December. I went to the art museum in New York. It was called the Nassau County Museum of Art, which is the border like Queens and Nassau County. New York definitely isn't just the city. There's a lot of like different areas in New York, but this is about an artist from New York. It's his biography, Bad Boy: My Life on and Off the Canvas. It's by Eric Fischl and David Stone as the author, and I guess the helper for it is Michael Stone. So it's about the life of Eric Fischl. He's an artist, a painter, sculptor from Long Island. Goes through about him growing up in Port Washington, which a lot of you probably don't know. It's on the North Shore of Long Island, suburbia, and his life there. He had a difficult childhood. His mother was an alcoholic, but he had great love for her, and that she was a good person when not drinking, which it is for a lot of people with that addiction. And his father was a salesman, and he had problems growing up, and the family moved from New York to Arizona, and then in Arizona he got into art, and then he went to college for that. Then he went to California for more education, which was more mentorship, so it was called Cal Arts, and it seems there wasn't a lot of structure with that. There was you're free to express and make art, and it wasn't as much education, it seems. But he learned art, and he was growing, and then after that he got a job in Canada to be an art teacher, art professor. So he did that for a while, and that helped him financially while finding his style in art with painting. He was more starting abstract, and then it was more of artwork that represents life. And he says in the book how it was sort of helped him. It was cathartic, therapeutic for him making art, and confronting his past, and understanding about life and different things, and also made art to for his audiences as well. And he became successful in art. Paintings sold for thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Don't we all wish to be artists like that, to make money from it? But there's a lot of work, and he speaks about the thought that he put into artwork, and how he's developing this style. One thing that was interesting, it's called glassine. So it's sort of a sort of transparent paper that would paint over, and then would put one paper over the other paper, so it's sort of scenery, and you're populating the scenery with it. So that was one sort of art experiment he did, which was interesting to me. And he went into more figurative artwork, and Bad Boy is actually the name of one of his paintings. And in a lot of his paintings, there's people that are naked and not nude, and he says about the difference of that. I'm pretty sure that was from I watched the interview of him today, him speaking, to hear from himself about it. So it was interesting to read the book and to hear about that, and that over the years he had different girlfriends and stuff. He was with the lady he married, April, for about 20 years before marrying at 50. So developing, they were basically married already, but just made it official. And that throughout the book, he talks about life, and remembers with his mother, and the good and bad. She committed suicide, which is sad, and that sort of tore his family apart. But over the years, that his art, and he was able to help bring his family back together with his father and his siblings, which was good. And his father was against him being an artist at first, and then like, sees he's successful, and like, he was always collecting like news clippings from his artwork of like, articles about him. So he was a proud father to Eric, and their relationship like got better, and like he understood more as an adult, like, oh, like, with his parents like fighting and different things, how his father was actually like the hero, like helped keep his family together with his mother being drunk and like bad things happening with that, and it's not being like, happy, but he was able to like, overcome different things in life. And then later on he goes on about like his father passing, and like, trying to like get closure about that in life, and like, was happy that he was able to like build a good relationship with his father before his father passed, and like, different things, and about like how society is with like, life and death and consumerism and different things. And like he goes on about like his art is more like, representing scenes of life. It's like telling a story. But some more like modern art is basically like, flash and show, and it doesn't really mean much anything. Like one thing was like a shark in formaldehyde, like a giant shark in formaldehyde, and then that was like sold to some like, rich collector, and like, that even in that it was like getting decaying, so that was replaced. But like, what is the art? Is it the idea of it, or is it like, that specific thing? So if you're changing it, is that really like the art that you wanted at first? So, and he goes on like describing about his process for making art. One interesting thing was it was in Germany, for Germany, like he's from America, but he did a show in Germany, so of like an old building, like a house from about 100 years ago or more, and he hired some actors, and like, had furnishings put inside the house, and then like, the actors going like living out different scenes, and it was sort of like open-ended, like, he gave the idea, and they come up with dialogue and different things, and he would photograph that and use those photos when back in New York to paint out like the scenes, and those paintings would go in that like the empty house as a museum. So it's sort of like looking back at the past of what the family, what that couple did in the house back then, and like, how their life was, sort of like reimagining of it in a way. That was one thing that was interesting. He goes into like being into sculptures as well, and that was like in 80s, 90s, and into more present times. He did a sculpture of a tennis player, which is at where the World's Fair was in the 60s, at Flushing Meadows Park, which is in Queens. And like, I'm pretty sure it's still there. And like, he also did another one of with like the Oklahoma City bombing, like relating to that, and that in that like the person, like, statue, like a person like naked, and it's like the Bible Belt. So it's like, oh, like you can't have that here. But then someone said, okay, like, that's an authority, I think it was like in the police force or fire department, said, okay, like, that's good that it's like, showing like humanity and like breaking down the barriers of like, police, fire departments, like, we're all like working together to help people through this tragedy. He did artwork for 9/11, and it was at Rockefeller Center, and that like got a bad rap. Like people misunderstood it, so that was like taken down. I'm not sure where it is now, but like, sometimes like art is, he's saying, it's sort of like, to communicate with others, and it's sort of like tells a story about life, and it's not just for the artist, it's like, for the viewer as well, to make you think and like, understand, and it's about ideas. But he goes to say it's not psychology, so like, it's sort of, it's not like, psychoanalyzing about things, but it's like, it's a narrative in his art. So it's very interesting. And he lived in different places. I mentioned some, but like after Canada, he was in Chicago, another like art center, then in New York City, and then going between New York City and the Hamptons, which a lot of people do, and which is like the Hamptons is the East End of Long Island, and he's there like full time now, still doing art and making art and different things. And it's in the book. It said about like he made some friends that are musicians and actors in different fields, other artists, and like the people of art galleries and collectors and what have you. So it's very interesting. And like he's a big into tennis, so he speaks about like making a friend with a tennis player, and like they're changing times in life, as you're getting older, and then like you're not the top dog, like your career is sort of different now, and accepting change, and like being happy about life. And it seems like he's been doing that, and like enjoying his time with his friends and family. He also says about the actor Steve Martin is friends with, and there actually is in this book some like other than his writings, it's like from other people's perspective, like friends and family, and like from his siblings and others, as well as like Steve Martin has a clip in it, like explaining about like their relationship and stuff, so you like see not just his view but how others see him with their relationship. So it's like you get a little sense of different perspectives about it. It's definitely an interesting book. You could find it online, and definitely suggest to read it. Interesting to learn about like an artist, like biography, autobiography, to like learn about like humans, other people, and how things are for different people. I haven't heard of a lot of the artists, but like the world is so big, there's 8 billion people on it now. It's a very interesting read. I definitely would suggest to check it out. Reading in general is important, like expand your mind, learn new ideas about how things are for different people, and like even if you read a sci-fi book or anything, like different stories and enjoyment, entertainment, infotainment, information, it's definitely a good hobby to get into. Well, thanks for listening. Have a great night. Subscribe, comment, like, share. Take care.